Hello, I'm Andrew McNair with the BBC News. 41 people who were rescued from a doomsday cult in Kenya are to be charged alongside the leader with murder. Paul Mackenzie is accused of encouraging his followers to starve themselves to death. Here's Dorcas Wingera.
The court heard that the 41 victims, now suspects, left their homes for the Shakahola forest in the company of at least 40 children. The senior prosecution counsel further said that the accused, 28 women and 13 men, are either parents or grandparents of the missing children. So far, the death toll linked to the cult stands at 425. More than 600 people are still missing.
Burkina Faso and Mali have issued a joint statement saying that they would regard any military intervention in Niger as a declaration of war on them. The two countries said that in such a scenario they would come to the defence of their eastern neighbour, whose soldiers seized power on Wednesday. Arhan Schippers reports.
The communiqué by the two military-ruled countries is a firm response to Sunday's statement by the regional grouping ECOWAS, which says it'll use military force if Niger's elected president Mohamed Bazoum is not reinstated. Burkina Faso and Mali, both now hosting Russian Wagner mercenaries, are warning that any military intervention in Niger would destabilize the region. In their words, they would come to the aid of the armed forces and the people of Niger. They've also rejected what they call illegal and inhumane sanctions and warned they could withdraw from ECOWAS.
All 15 judges on Israel's Supreme Court are to take part in a hearing next month on the first law passed in the government's overhaul of the judiciary. It will be the first time in Israel's history that an extended bench will sit. The showdown has triggered months of mass protests. Yolande Nell reports.
This decision by the Supreme Court President is a measure of the huge significance of the legislation passed last week by Israel's religious nationalist coalition government. The amendment to Basic Law prohibits Israel's highest court from reviewing some decisions made by the government and ministers, judging them against a standard of reasonableness. The coalition, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, argues that it's needed to prevent overreach by the court. Critics say the changes remove important checks on the government.
Representatives from the Taliban and the United States have held the first direct talks since the Taliban regained control of Afghanistan 2 years ago. Sean Dilley reports.
The US State Department said it made clear its concerns about deteriorating human rights in Afghanistan. The officials called on the Taliban-controlled administration to reverse bans on secondary education for girls and employment for women, and they called for the release of detained Americans. They said they would be prepared to hold future discussions on combating narcotics and to discuss economic stability and inflation in Afghanistan.
BBC News. Nigeria's president has announced a raft of measures to tackle the rising cost of living, which has prompted civil unrest and looting. In a television address, Bola Tinubu said he'd ordered the release of 200,000 tonnes of grain from strategic reserves. He promised a new minimum wage and financial help for businesses. UNESCO says Venice should be added to the list of endangered World Heritage Sites, accusing the Italian authorities of not doing enough to secure the historical city and surrounding lagoon. Sofia Batizza reports.
UNESCO says the city is at risk of irreversible damage because of overwhelming tourism and urban developments such as high-rise buildings. Climate change is also having a negative impact. It's causing a rise in sea levels, so Venice, which is surrounded by water, is very vulnerable to flooding. The UNESCO report blames the Italian authorities for a lack of strategic vision.
A zoo in eastern China has reassured visitors its bears are real, not humans in disguise, after footage of one standing on its hind legs sparked rumours online. The animal appeared to be observing visitors with its front paws by its side. Our China media analyst, Kerry Allen, has been looking at the images.
I'll be honest, I first watched some video footage and I thought, yeah, that's a real bear. Nobody could have that much flexibility. But then when I saw some stills of this footage, it does look like a human being standing up. And I have to mention that this breed of bear, the Malayan sun bear, it's about 4 to 5 feet tall. So it's roughly the size of a small human anyway. And yeah, there are people who have definitely lit up Chinese social media talking about how they think it actually might be a human in a bear costume.
Our China media analyst Kerry Allen reporting. That's the latest BBC News.